Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the BCAM Sports Jam. This show is sponsored by the S. Money Management Team. I'm your host, Brad Cameron, and I'm accompanied by my co-host, Julia Morris. Julia, how are we doing this evening?
Brad, I'm doing great. It's Friday. We're about to talk sports. I mean, what's not to love about that?
You know what? I wish I knew. That sounds fantastic. You know what? But before we get into too much sports, I want to give everyone an overview of kind of the show and talk about some of the words and terms we're going to use on our show. One being jammer fan. You may not use that in your everyday vocabulary, but jammer fan is a term we use to describe someone who watches our show, who interacts with us, and who just gets involved and comments as a fan of the BCAM Sports Jam. And another term, specifically jammer, is a male fan, and jamette is a female fan. But both are jammer fans, and we appreciate the support from both. So get used to hearing those terms as we go through the show. Ready to begin?
I'm ready. Let's jump into our top stories. You ready?
I'm ready.
You guys ready out there? All right, let's get into it. Baseball season. It's crunch time now, Brad. It is crunch time. The season is winding down. We've got about 2 weeks to go, and things are really heating up in the wild card in both the NL and the AL.
Yeah.
Let's talk NL first.
Okay.
All right. Pittsburgh and Chicago just wrapped up a series. Chicago looked really good in that series in Pittsburgh. I think that's huge for them. I think the Cubs are going to come in and take that number one spot. I think that Pittsburgh, while they're an experienced team, I think that the Cubs, they're playing really good baseball right now, and I like their chances.
They are. I hear you, and I like the Cubs. I just think Pittsburgh has too much veteran presence, bats that have been here before, who need to perform down crunch time, and they get it done. I think Pittsburgh holds on to that number one spot for the wild card and just edges out the Cubs.
And you mentioned veteran experience for the Pirates, but let's not forget the Cubs. They also have a proven veteran with a lot of playoff experience, John Lester. I think that's a huge factor for them. And I like their young talent, too. Anthony Rizzo just slugged 30 home runs on the season. Chris Bryant, very exciting player to watch.
Yeah.
So, I think that one's definitely going to be a fun one to watch going down the stretch.
Lots of hittings from both teams. Sterling Marte and Andrew McCutchen. There's lots of big hitting in both those organizations. So sure.
And let's talk AL now.
Okay.
The Yankees, I think they're going to come and take that number one spot. I'm not feeling so confident how they're going to do in the playoffs when it actually comes down to it, because I think Tanaka is really their only starter right now that they can rely on. CeCe did play well in his last game, but again, I think he's fatigued. He's
up and down.
It's a
too,
lot.
So.
Yeah, they lost to Shera. That was huge for them. But I do think the Yankees are going to come through with that wild card spot. I don't think they'll overtake the Blue Jays for the division.
No.
Yeah, I think that one's kind of going to be a lockup. But for that second spot, we got a lot of teams in the mix.
There's a lot of teams in the mix. You look at Houston, Minnesota, and LA, who's creeping right there. Houston obviously has the spot right now, but look for a couple squads coming from behind to really try and edge them and finish the season strong. I think Minnesota is a team that squeezes in. I think Houston's running out of steam. They just got swept by the Rangers, and I think the wheels are about to fall off for Houston, and I think Minnesota is going to capitalize and squeeze in there in the second spot behind the Yankees for the wild card.
I agree. I think that Houston is losing a lot of momentum at the time when they really can't afford to do that.
No.
They weren't looking good after getting swept by the Rangers. I think that's a real problem for them. But I'm going to go with the Angels overtaking rather than the Twins.
Okay.
Just because, how can you argue with Mike Trout and the Twins? They're playing below 500 baseball this month. They were hot for a while, but they're kind of fading now. And the Angels, they're starting to heat up a little bit. So I kind of like them rather than the Twins.
Okay.
Yes.
Very true.
But that's another exciting one to watch. And that's a lot of teams in the hunt for it. It's exciting stuff.
Big storyline to look for. Baseball playoffs coming up, folks. It's October soon, so get ready. The next top story we're going to focus on is rocky starts in the NFL. Let's focus on 3 teams specifically that had season-opening losses. Colts, Seattle Seahawks, and also the Philadelphia Eagles. Now let's focus on the Colts first. Andrew Luck struggled against Buffalo. Is it time to panic for these teams, or do you think they'll settle down? What do you think about the Colts?
I think the Colts are going to bounce back. They're going to play in Indy. I think that Buffalo's defense is extremely tough, one of the best in the league. I don't think they should panic yet. I'm pretty confident, although the Jets will be a tough matchup, I see them bouncing back. What about you?
I absolutely agree with you. I think the Jets just don't have enough firepower offensively to keep up with the Colts. And the Colts are down T.Y. Hilton, but Dante Moncrief played a great game, kind of as a speedy replacement for T.Y. And I think Andrew Luck's comfortable with Moncrief, and I think they put up just enough points to edge the Jets. I think the Jets just don't have enough offensive firepower to hang.
I agree. And the Seahawks you mentioned, I know, I think that they're going to bounce back as well. That's a big game for them at Lambeau Field. Huge. But I just don't see them going 0-2. I think their defense is going to carry them, and I think that they're going to pull off a win.
You're right. It's hard to bet against Andrew Luck, or against Aaron Rodgers, but at home especially. But I just think this Seattle team they know how to win games. They've lost games before, and they always come back with a win. They always find a way to settle down, make whatever changes, do whatever you have to do to win football games, whether it's special teams, whether it's big plays defensively, and I think they elevate their game enough to stay in the hunt. Obviously, it's only 2 games, but teams that start 0-2, very slim percentage of making the postseason. So I think Seattle wins on the road against Green Bay.
Yeah, this is crunch time for these teams, definitely.
Yeah.
Too. What about the Eagles? What do you see them doing?
The Eagles are tough. I think they're going to win against the Cowboys. But I think this could be a smoke and mirrors game because this isn't the full Cowboys team. Like they're minus Dez Bryant, probably their best offensive player. With that said, is this a quality win for the Eagles? I'm not really sure. Obviously it's in division, so it's a big game. But this is not Dallas's full team. So the Eagles, this win I don't think means as much as it would if Dez was playing.
I mean, I think that's a very good point. The Dez thing is huge. That's a huge loss for them. The game is in Philly, but I don't know. I think the Cowboys looked really good against the Giants. I'm going to go with Philly falling on this one just because I'm not completely sold on their quarterback situation. I don't – it's just not convincing to me.
So if Philly goes 0-2, is it time to start panicking in Philadelphia?
I mean, yeah,
okay.
I think so. You said if you go 0-2 – your chances for making the playoffs, there's just that much more pressure.
Yep.
So I think for the teams that can't bounce back, yeah, you should panic. I mean, who wants to lose and then just be like, let's sit back. It's all right. We'll chalk that one up. Like, come on. If you lose, it's time to panic.
True, and Dallas would be 2-0. With wins
huge.
Against New York and against Philly.
Yeah, that's huge for them.
2 division wins right away. Yeah,
definitely.
That's a huge game for both those squads. There's no doubt about it. Okay, well, you know what? Why don't we take our first media break? We're going to do some social media advertising here, so don't go anywhere. Folks, we'll be right back with the BCAM Sports Jam. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the BCAM Sports Jam. Moving on to our next segment, we're going to do something that gets the fans involved. We want you guys to be interactive with us, and we want to talk with you and help you in any sort of situation with some of your sports knowledge and fantasy knowledge. So we're going to give a shout out to one of our loyal fans, one of our followers who subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's Hunter Looney. You can follow him at Dr. Looney Gaming. He has a gaming channel. Follow him on Twitter and check out his gaming channel on YouTube. So thank you, Hunter, for your support.
Appreciate the support. All right, Brad, let's move into the fun stuff. This is my favorite part of the show. This is going to be the best part.
Okay.
This is why you watch every week. We are going to talk about the week's biggest blunders, and the segment is going to be called Brad's Bozos and Julius Jabronis. What is not to love about that title? I love it. This is the best. This is the best. This is the fun stuff. All right, Brad, what's your Bozo play of the week?
Okay, my Bozo play of the week, for anyone who caught the Miami Dolphins game versus Washington Redskins, witnessed a numerous amount of fumbles on one play. When Ryan Tannehill dropped back, it was a sack fumble, and no one could recover the ball. You would think it was slicked up like a pig. Just couldn't jump on it. About 4 or 5 guys tried to dive on it. Finally, rookie Preston Smith for the Skins dove on it and forced the turnover. But it was quite theatrical watching a bunch of grown men trying to dive after a football.
Man, that play was just ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, come on, catch it. You got it. All right, you got it. And then it's just like, as soon as you thought somebody had it, popped out again. It was just like, there was butter all over that ball or something. I don't know. That was kind of crazy. All right, for my jabroni of the week, I am going to go with Yadier Molina on the Cardinals, stepping up to bat against the Cubs. Taps his bat. Crack. Done.
What are they using? Balsa wood down there?
I mean, come on, man.
Jeez.
Get it together.
Okay.
The Cards also lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs in that series, so I mean that was just a little bit of a blunder for them
Cubs
as well.
have had a tough little stint here recently, so.
Yeah, well, the Cubs are playing good.
They are.
Cards better step it up.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Okay, moving on. Our next segment, weekend preview. We want to talk to you guys about some big games. Games you want to watch. Big implications. Should be just fantastic competition. Some football, some baseball. 'Cause we got playoffs coming up. So Julia's gonna start with some of our big games, baseball wise.
All right, yeah. I mean, I definitely think you got to follow the Rangers and the Astros this weekend. That race in the AL West is tightening up, and I think Houston feels a lot of pressure. They're both matching up with bottom teams in the AL West. The Rangers are going to play the Mariners at home. The Astros are going to play the Athletics. But the Athletics did just take 2 out of 3 from the Astros. And the Rangers did play the Mariners recently, but did well against them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are 2 teams to definitely follow this weekend. I mean, the Rangers, they were left for dead in July. They were 9 games back in the AL West, and now they're ahead. I mean, I definitely didn't see them in this position, but they're heating up when it matters, and that's huge for them.
So true. Very
Yeah.
true.
Definitely.
All right. I'm going to cover a little bit of college football. Talk about some big games, some big ranked matchups this week. One being Auburn versus LSU at LSU. Very huge game here. Both these teams have their eyes set on winning the SEC. So this is a big matchup. And I think LSU just is too talented. I think at home they're tough to beat. Les Miles knows how to win these games where there's a lot of pressure, a lot of implications. I think LSU is going to pull this one out.
I agree with you. I think LSU is going to come up the win. I mean, the fact that Auburn went into overtime against Jacksonville State, an FCS team, that is just not a good look. I mean, the game's at LSU. I think that the LSU Tigers, rather than the Auburn Tigers, we got a Tigers and Tigers matchup. It's pretty cool. I think that LSU is going to come away with the victory in this one.
Okay. Yep.
What's the other big SEC matchup to watch for, Brad?
Alabama Ole Miss. This is in Tuscaloosa, and Ole Miss does not have a good track record playing at Alabama. But Ole Miss's offense looks absolutely fantastic right now. I mean, they've put up almost 70 points every single game they played of the 2 games they've played so far this year. But I just wonder, with what history has said, can they win at Alabama? I don't think so. I think Alabama is just too tough. I think they're running the ball extremely well. And I just think Ole Miss is going to falter again.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a tough matchup for Ole Miss. But big weekend in the SEC, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about some important sports headlines for this weekend as well. Sticking with college football, I think one of the biggest headlines to watch for this weekend is the Notre Dame and Georgia Tech game.
Sure.
In South Bend. How will Notre Dame perform without their starting quarterback? Malik Zaire is out. He's done.
That's tough. How do you replace your starting quarterback? Like, you game plan the whole season for your starter. And I just think I don't think you can replace that. His ability to run the ball and pass the ball. He's worked with the starters. I don't think that Notre Dame can replace the talent and the electricity that he brought to the football field. And I think this Georgia Tech team is going to put up a lot of points. Their triple run option has been hard to stop for years, and I just think Notre Dame can't score enough. I think Georgia Tech gets the W.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech's going to win as well. I think that's just a lot to ask a young, inexperienced quarterback to come into a situation while the game is at home. I think it's a lot to see him carry this team and step up, being that he is so young and inexperienced, and that Georgia Tech is such a tough team defensively. So I think that Notre Dame also loses this game.
Well, congratulations, Georgia Tech. Okay. Well, we're going to take another break, but we'll be back shortly. Don't go anywhere. Beat Camp Sports Jam. All right, everybody, welcome back. Beat Camp Sports Jam. It's time for our last segment of the show. Julia, fantasy finale.
Fantasy finale, that's right. We're going to give you guys some tips about who to start, who to sit in your fantasy teams this weekend, just some matchups that we like and matchups that we don't. So let's get into it.
Okay.
All right. Quarterback. Who you got to have a big game? Who you got starting?
My top start at quarterback is Drew Brees. Looking at this Tampa Bay defense, after Marcus Mariota, a rookie, first game ever in the NFL, threw 4 touchdowns, tore this team up. I think Drew Brees, as a veteran, stud, top quarterback in the NFL, does the exact same thing. I think he has just as good of a game and actually absolutely shreds that defense.
I think that's a good pick, too, especially after what Mariota did. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Well, who do you got?
I got Eli Manning.
Okay.
I think that, everything that happened this weekend with all his situation, I think he bounces back from that. He's an $84 million guy now, playing in New York. New Yorkers, as a New Yorker, I know New Yorkers will not have it if he doesn't bounce back and have a good game.
Well, maybe there's big pressure with his new contract. Maybe he can't handle the pressure.
No, I think he can take it.
Okay.
I mean, come on. He played in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady, beat him twice. I think he could handle it.
Moving on.
And I think that the Falcons, honestly, their defense looked weak in the second half against the Eagles. The Eagles had huge drive, 95 yards touchdown drive, 80 yards touchdown drive. I think that they started to falter in the second half, and I think that Eli comes in and he bounces back and takes over and works his magic.
Yeah, there's no doubt in the second half there the Eagles definitely exposed something on in that Falcons secondary, and so maybe the Giants and Eli can learn from that. Okay. Well, who do you have as your top start at running back?
Running back, I'm going to go with Chris Ivory on the Jets. I know the game is at Indy against the Colts, but, I mean, I liked what Ivory did against the Browns. 2 touchdowns. That was big. And I don't think the Colts' run defense looked very good against the Bills. Gave up the running touchdowns to Carlos Wilson, Boobie Dixon. I mean, even Tyrod Taylor rushed for 41 yards. I think that Chris Ivory comes up big and has a good game against Indy.
Okay, people, you heard it right there. Chris Ivory.
Who you got?
Stuff. I'm going to take DeMarco Murray. I think he is geared up for this game. He's been waiting for this game. He wants to play against Dallas to show them what they lost. So I think DeMarco Murray comes out angry, wants to get the fans involved. He wants to really rile up the crowd. And I think DeMarco Murray has a big performance against Dallas, his former team.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an exciting game to watch for sure. All right, who are you going with for wide receiver?
Wide receiver, I have Odell Beckham Jr. It just makes sense. If Eli has a good game, you got to think the top playmaker for the Giants has to have a good game also. So I'm taking Odell Beckham Jr. to kind of surge this offense again like he did last year, and Eli knows exactly who to go to. Like, it's got to be him. Odell, big game.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a fun game to watch. I'm going to go with Steve Smith Sr. Just because the Raiders, they're out Charles Woodson now. And I know Steve Smith might not have had his best game last weekend. I mean, he's still a veteran guy with great stats, one of the best receivers for the Ravens. Last year, he led them with 79 catches, over 1,000 yards. I think that he bounces back and he has a good game against the Raiders, especially with the Charles Woodson situation.
Sure thing. I like it. Okay, well let's flip the script. Who do you think is going to fall on their face? What quarterback should you sit if they're on your roster?
I think you're going to have to sit Tom Brady on this one. The Bills' defense is just too good. It's in Buffalo, and while Brady has played well in Buffalo in the past, I think that what the Bills did against Andrew Luck was impressive, and he's one of the better quarterbacks in this league, I think you could say. So I definitely think Tom Brady is not going to put up the numbers that he did against the Steelers. He had 4 touchdowns, but I don't see him performing in the same way against the Bills this weekend.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Who you got?
I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I know he's one of the top QBs in the NFL, but we both think Seattle's going to rebound and win. And how are you going to stop the Green Bay Packers? You stop Aaron Rodgers. So fantasy owners, be weary. Legion of Boom going to come out strong, even at Lambeau. I think Aaron Rodgers struggles.
And who you got for running back?
For running back, I'm going to go with AP. I love AP. I think he's the best back in the league. But I just don't think Minnesota is clicking right now. And so I think it's a risky start. And I know people have invested top picks in him. But if you can muster up something this week besides AP, I would give him maybe one more week before he really starts clicking with Teddy Bridgewater again. Gets used to football speed and football action again. Right now, I would maybe consider resting AP if you have other options.
I'm going to go with Jaguars rookie TJ Yeldon just because the Dolphins and Sue, I think they're going to stop him. He had a good debut, don't get me wrong. I think he was impressive in that debut, but I think Sue comes through for the Dolphins. They might not have contained the Redskins the best that they could, but I think that they bounce back, and I don't know. I'm a little weary of how the rookie does against the Dolphins.
Okay, well, who's your wide receiver that you should look out for?
Yeah, just sticking with the Legion of Boom, controlling now the Packers. I think you're going to have to sit Randall Cobb, just because I do think that the Seahawks bounce back and they have a really good game at Lambeau Field.
Okay.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with Hopkins for Houston. I think Houston's quarterback situation is a mess right now. It's an absolute mess. And so as a fantasy owner, you don't know if he's going to get the football because you don't know if the quarterback's even going to, throw it near him where he can catch it. I think Hopkins is a risky start right now. Try and find some other option in the meantime until they get that offense kind of settled down a little bit and the quarterback situation figured out. So those would be that'd be my wide receiver to sit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think until the quarterback situation becomes more consistent, it's just too much of a question mark for them.
Very true. All right, people. Take those notes. Fantasy football, top sits and starts, Julia and Brad. And that's actually all the time we have this evening. So for the B-Camp Sports Jam, I'm Brad.
I'm Julia. Guys, thanks so much for joining us and watching. We appreciate it.
Thanks for jamming with us.